Hello, everybody. Lauren Breeden, speech language pathologist here with the first video in the series, Early Childhood Speech and Language. So for this first episode, one of the most frequently asked questions that I would get from parents working in early childhood intervention for about 12 years was, what sounds should my child be making at 18 months, at 2 years old, at 30 months old, etc. I would especially get comments from parents saying he can't say his L sound, he can't say the S, he can't say his R's at all. His R's sound terrible. They always sound like a W. And I would always have to coach parents about what's normal, what's totally okay for their child to be saying, and really what the expectations are for, this will probably be about like 12 months to 36 months. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you, and my aim is that, my hope, I put these documents on a Google Drive, and so I will post the link to these resources for you so you can go look at them on your own. These are just resources that I have shared with parents for the past decade. So this is nothing new, and honestly, these are just the tried and true resources that I would share with my families on a regular and consistent basis. So let me share my screen and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is one of the first ones. Now, remember, I've been in this field for a while, and when I initially started in this field, online resources were not as widely available as they are today. And so this is just what I initially started out with. This is a copy of a copy of a copy, probably, but the information is still accurate and it's still valid. So I always used to explain to parents, it kind of depends on what your learning style is, as far as what method or what resource I'm sharing with you is going to be most helpful for you. Either way, they all share the same information. So this is just kind of a chart. I'm more of a chart person, and so I liked this one. And I'll show you a different variation of this in just a second. So this is just a regular age scale. And so it lists the initial or the beginning of the word sounds that we expect, the medial or middle of the word sounds that we expect, and then the final or end of the word. And then we have finally consonant blends. So that's where the word has two consonants together, such as in truck or skate. So it has the ages listed over here. And now it starts at age 2, because generally when I would do articulation therapy with kiddos, they were at least 2 years old, and in most cases closer to 3, because I would need a little bit more of an attention span from those kiddos. And so I would have to wait until they were just a little bit older. So for those parents, if you are one of those parents that is concerned that your child is not using the R or L or S sounds, I just want to put your mind at ease and say that's not appropriate for your 2-year-old child to be using those sounds. If you have had a child that was making those sounds, fantastic, but just know that it's not expected at 2 years old or even 3. So hopefully this makes a little bit of sense for you. You can look over it at your own pace. But even by age 3, essentially how you read this is, by age 3, they should have these sounds at the beginning of words, these sounds in the middle, and these sounds in the end. So not only these, but everything else above it as well. So it's basically just a cumulative development, right? We don't want them to lose any sounds, of course, but it will just grow over time. As you can see, the R is way down here, around 5 or even 6. And then S and Z are also 2 of the harder ones to produce, and those may not even come until up to 7 years old. And that's why, even if you've had older kiddos that go into the school system and you think they really need speech therapy, they're not using the Z sound. This is why, because the expectation comes pretty late. Not that I'm a proponent of waiting. I think that the earlier the intervention that you can get for your child, the better. We know from research that the neuroplasticity in the brain is greatest between 0 to 5, but especially between 0 to 3. And so that's why early childhood intervention is so critical. So this is just one way to look at this. This is actually a much more organized and updated viewpoint of essentially the same information. The only thing that this does, well, it does have consonant clusters, but it does not separate them into a different category. So you can just look at it that way. Along with this handout as well, again, just another way to look at the same information. It's, again, a copy of a copy of a copy. And so it may be a little bit difficult to read, but still the same information. Here's your ages appear and the sounds at which they are produced. It does not separate it into the beginning or the middle or the ending sound of the word. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then down here, you really cannot read that. These are actually phonetic symbols. And so I wrote next to it what those phonetic symbols are. And if you're a visual person, if you just like looking at pictures, here's just a numbers view of what sound should be produced by what age. This is actually something that I made when I was going through my internship right after college. About 12 years ago, but the information is still valid. So, and if you are, again, more of a visual person, this is just a cute way to look at it. Articulation norms tree house. So by the age of 6, to have that voiceless TH, such as in thing or thistle, but also have all of these other sounds down here. So hopefully that will help you, kind of guide you as to what your child should be saying and when. I will do other videos as well on what phonological processes are, because for children, even up until age 5 or 6, there are some errors that are completely typical and completely expected. And so I will make another video about that to kind of explain what that is and also show you the resources for those that I have as well. But hopefully this gives you a good framework of what sounds are typical and maybe give you a little bit of peace of mind if your 2-year-old isn't saying some of those sounds that you thought they should be saying. So I hope that helps. If you have any suggestions or any questions in particular about future topics, please feel free to leave me a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And please check out my Patreon page if you like what you see, so I can keep this helpful info coming. Thank you so much.